Okay.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا بالقاسم محمد وعلى عترة الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's really nice to be back again on Real Talk. Today we have our guest Safiya Virji. Assalamu alaikum, Safiya.
Alaikum salam.
How are you?
I'm okay. Thank you for inviting me today to talk.
You're right. Thank you for accepting our invitation. I'll just pass it on to you to just introduce yourself, and then we'll go on from there if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure. So I was born and brought up in Peterborough. I've got 3 children, 11, 8, and 4. I have a degree in medicine, a degree in management and education. I do some typical doctor work in a medical school with undergraduates, and I also train doctors to become GPs. And
wow.
In addition to that, I'm clinic lead for a charity called A World Without Barriers, where we go destitutes all over the world, but primarily we run medical clinics in Iraq. So pre-COVID, we would go anywhere between 2 and 4 times a year to run medical clinics for orphans, widows, and the poor. So that's an endeavor that I lead and is quite a significant part of my life.
Okay, hang on a minute. So you're working as a GP, you're teaching undergraduates, and you're also a mum and a wife, and you also work with World Without Barriers and go to Iraq 2-3 times a year, you said. How do you fit it all in?
Yeah, so that's a voluntary position. I think everything is easy to fit in if you're doing something that you enjoy doing or that you feel is worthwhile. And I think quite confident is following my childhood dreams, and also I hope securing my akhirah. So I tend to find it's not a big problem for me to navigate these things because of how strongly I feel about them.
Okay, and how does your husband and your children cope around all of that? What I'm going to do, Safiya, if you don't mind, sorry, I'm going to.
So I leave it up to them how they want to cope.
Sorry, Safiya, there's a bit of a lag. Can you hear me? Okay, I'm going to remove you, and I want you to actually click on the link again and come back in and see if that makes it better, if you don't mind. Sorry about that. I'm just going to try to add her on again. Safiya, just come out of the studio, and then click back on the link to come back into the studio. Thank you. Okay, we're going to try this again because there's a bit of a lag, and plus she wasn't very clear, and so I'm hoping it will make it better once she signs back in, inshallah. But yeah, how amazing is that? Can you imagine a wife, a mother, working as a GP, teaching undergraduate doctors, and also going 2 to 3 times a year to volunteer in Iraq as a doctor with World Without Barriers? I don't know where she finds the time. It's absolutely amazing. I think, yeah, maybe we need to learn some organization skills from her and time management. Okay, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. I hope that's better.
Much, much better. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, so we were just discussing with the viewers, it's like your time management must be amazing to try to fit all of this in.
I think other people would probably say that my time management is good. For me, it's all I've ever known, because I think I probably always have balanced a lot. But that's because I always had, I always kind of identified goals, and therefore was fully aware that waiting for the right time to achieve these goals is probably unrealistic. So I did generally try to find time in my life to make sure that everything was going on. So yes, probably I am an organized person, but I think you heard your last question you asked was about how my husband and kids fitted in. I think that both my husband and myself are quite respectful of each of us kind of following our own dreams. And we're both, in completely different lines of work. I think the key is really to just appreciate how important each other's passions are. And just as much as this is my passion and I want to prioritize it, it's the same for him. So I think we're generally respectful of each other in that way. And we try to make sure that we enable the other person to do what they need to do for themselves. So we have an understanding between us. He generally doesn't come with me when we go to Iraq. And that's because, as I said, this is, my passion and my aspiration. And he allows me to, to go and do that. And in the same way, there are times where, I need to do the bulk of the things at home so that he can pursue his goals, and I absolutely encourage him to do that too. So it's a two-way street. Regarding the children, I most of the time I take them with me, actually. And
how old are your children?
So one is nearly 11, one is 8, and one is 4.
Wow.
And so I've been going since my little one was probably about 5, so maybe the last 6 years now. And I take as many of them as I feel I can take in terms of safety, bearing in mind I have 2 pairs of hands and I'm constantly working when I'm there. So as long as I feel
what do the kids do? Sorry, what do the kids do while you're working?
Depends on their age. So when my smallest one was a baby, I mean, he's 4, maybe some people feel he's a baby, but when he was really a baby, he would just be strapped to my chest, basically. So he would just, or on my back in like a carry backpack thing. And so then he would just see what was going on. If there were some teenagers in the orphanage, they used to enjoy playing with him. So he was fine when he was little. My son, when he was like 7, 8, 9, he would tend to just play football or play games with the children that we would see. I mean, they are far more patient over there than they are over here. And I think it's because they genuinely understand that actually we have limited resources. These are people in need, and mummy is quite clearly busy. So I think that sometimes we underestimate how much children catch on to, and the kids observe this, and therefore they know full well how much to push things. So I generally find from Heathrow back to Heathrow again, round trip, my kids turn into angels. I have no problem with them at all. It's only when we get back home that they go back to being, real children of the West.
And it must be such an amazing life experience for them, right? They must pick up so many different experiences and lessons from the trip.
Yeah, I think that my kids probably wouldn't be who they are, say the things that they do, and have the ideas that they come up with if it wasn't for what they've seen. And I think it would make my job a bit harder as well, in the sense that obviously we try our best to bring up our kids, having compassion, having empathy, and understanding the concept of serving the vulnerable. And by vulnerable, I don't necessarily just mean people in Iraq. I just mean your elderly next door neighbor. I think it would just be a lot harder to explain our duty had they not seen firsthand what they can do even at their age. So I do tend to try and get my kids involved when we go abroad, in whatever capacity seems appropriate at the time. So for example, when I took my 6-year-old before lockdown, she made, you know, a lovely shop from all the donations that we were sent. And, you know, she would take the children in to pick an item when they would leave the clinic and that sort of thing. So it, you know, just involve them in whatever capacity seems appropriate. And I think that, you know, they remember that involvement so that when they come home, it's easier for them to then channel that and come up with ideas of what would be appropriate to do here in the UK, bearing in mind the different types of challenges and obstacles that the vulnerable face here.
Can you give me an example of one of the suggestions that your children gave to you while you were in lockdown, which I thought was really beautiful?
I mean, there were several, but the maddest one was probably, I think you're probably referring to my son's idea of that I needed to become a foster carer. It's, you know, my kids, they're so innocent. They see things as black and white, which is, I mean, this just came up because of the refugee situation. And I guess that's what I mean about just my kids trying to keep up to date about what's going on in the world. And what our duties are. And, you know, we really just had a simple conversation. It's obviously important for the children to know what's going on in terms of refugees, because they could end up going back to school and there would be somebody in their class who's refugee. You know, my children need to understand their duty. These children may not speak English. These children may not have, you know, the right equipment. They may not have friends. My kids need to understand that you could be faced with that. And what's your duty? What's your responsibility? What do I expect from you? What does God expect from you? And, you know, I do have these expectations for my kids, and therefore we need to talk about these issues. And when we did talk about them, my son said to me, you know, so what happens to these kids if they come here? He'd seen a picture of a common picture, I think a lot of us saw, of a child being passed from a soldier into a lorry. So he said to me that, where would the parents be? I said, well, the parents could be staying back home, or the parents could have passed away. I don't know. And he said, so when the child comes here, what's the plan? And I said, well, the plan would be that somebody would look after them. And he said, who's the somebody? And I said, well, we're relying on the goodwill of the community. And he's like, so I assume we've signed up to that then. And I said, well, I haven't yet signed up. And that's how it started. And yeah, I mean, of course I could have turned around and said, goodness me, you know, I'm quite busy. I'm not sure I can fit that in. But the problem is, what message would I be giving him? That actually, if you are busy and someone needs help, then, you know, don't, you know, like it's really, really difficult when you know that you're not just looking out for yourself here, you're bringing up 3 lives. And these children are going to go on to have their own lives, and they're going to bring up their own families. And, you know, I want him to have in his head that he needs to have a really, really solid excuse that he would be willing to say to God before he says no to helping somebody who's truly in need. And, you know, I thought, if that's what I want from my son, then I have to lead by example. And this is his idea. And it would be hugely detrimental for me to discourage him when he came up with this himself. And that's the reason, basically, that I pursued the process. Otherwise, I can honestly say that it wasn't on my to-do list. Certainly wasn't a priority.
So you've actually signed up to be a foster parent now for these refugees?
Yeah, so it's like, for me, it was a 3-month process. So I'm about halfway through that process. So I think December I have my panel date. So
wow, that's amazing. One of the things that you said, which was quite important, I think, and if you can just expand on that, is that if you don't wait for things to happen, you just go for it. And if it's something that you're passionate about, you will find time for it. I think most people would say, well, I am passionate, but there just isn't enough hours in the day. What would you say to them?
I would perhaps question how passionate they are. I mean, that's all I could really say. I mean, for me, I remember my mum had a nursing home. So I grew up in a nursing home. And I can remember now, I must have been maybe 7 or 8. And I was helping her to put an old lady to bed. And the TV was on. And I could see, you know, basically some sort of healthcare professionals in the desert helping some people. And I remember looking at the TV and thinking, that is the plan. You know, that's the outcome. And I was very clear on that vision at that age. And therefore, everything I did needed to be geared towards that. And I think sometimes you do need to be ready for the road to be a bit lengthy, because the first time that happened was 2015. I probably saw that thing on TV in 1990. I mean, I think you need to be patient. I couldn't do it without becoming a doctor and then pursuing general practice and education and management, and all of that led me to become an effective clinic lead for the charity. So it requires patience and persistence, but I think you need a clear vision, and you need to be determined, and you need to question why you want to do it. I think if your reasons are genuine and are helpful, and you can channel them back to Islam somehow, it's a lot more likely that those reasons will be with you year after year after year. And for me, that was the case. And therefore, the first time the opportunity came and I realized that the charity were offering this, I couldn't wait to jump on it. And that was really the beginning of the journey for me. But I think one thing I want to add is that I am aware that the way that I have phrased that is that, you need to wait all of these years and become a doctor or something to do this. That's not the case at all. There are so many people I've spoken to where they said, oh, from all the trips you've been on, what was the best, or which one really stuck in your head? And I say the same thing. It's when there's a solid admin team. I can do without a doctor here or there. I can do without a consultant here or there, and I don't lose sleep. But if we don't have a solid admin team, then we really, really struggle. And it's not just about us struggling. It's about our orphans struggling. It's about, the old men who have been carried up the stairs struggling, and so one thing I always tell everyone that, question what your dream is, and that's all that's important. It doesn't matter what you've done or what you haven't done or what your baggage is. None of it is important. The only thing that is important is have a clear vision, and if being there for people less fortunate is on the top of your priority list, or certainly in the top few things on your priority list, then I would just urge you to make it happen, because I'm not sure in the lives that we lead there would ever be a clear time to make it happen.
Yeah. So what you're saying is I don't have to be a doctor to help with World Without Borders. I can not have any education.
I don't want to have favorites, but the people I can't live without are the teachers, not because they do any teaching, but because they just have amazing skills. They're just very diplomatic. They're very organized. And so those are the people that when I can see there's a teacher joining us, I just sleep so well. So no, you don't need to be a doctor. You don't even need to be a teacher. And I remember saying to my sister, who had never come with us, and it was her first time, and she was saying, do you think we'll be any help? Tell me, be honest with me. And I said to her, the people that are the most help are the people that want to be there. And she just couldn't understand that concept. She found it really bizarre until she got there. And then she realized that actually anyone can move mountains here just by wanting to be there. My mum is a nurse. She's done no nursing there at all, because she just finds so much else to do that she cracks on with that. So we've never even used her for her nursing skills before. So it really is just about wanting to be there and wanting to help. And if that's the case, then absolutely. I mean, we even the last time we went, we had a lovely group of teenagers, and again, they were worried that, my God, we're just teenagers. What can we really offer? We'll observe. There was no observer. They rolled their sleeves up. They got their hands dirty, and they came home, and their lives were changed. And that's really what it's about.
So one of the other things that I think people may question is usually as Muslims, when we go to Iraq or places like that to help, we usually tend to look for Muslim organizations to go and help.
So World Without Barriers is the type of organization that it tries to serve humanity. That's the point. And I think
which is what Islam is all about, right?
Yeah. So I think the aim is that anyone who shares the ethos, you know, even if they're a Sunni Muslim, anyone who shares the ethos and is respectful of the Ahlul Bayt, then of course, you know, they would be welcome to join. And even when it comes to going to the harams and this sort of thing, you know, there is no compulsion. This, at the end of the day, is there. We are in the city of Najaf, we're in the city of Karbala, and anybody who wants to take advantage of the honor of being in those cities is absolutely able to do that. And in the same way, when we go to Iraq, you know, we don't question people about what their beliefs are. You know, we are there, you know, in the city of the father of the orphans to serve the orphans. We're not there to question anyone on their faith. And at the end of the day, we're not really doing it for them. I know we are there to help them. I appreciate that. But we're actually doing this for ourselves, because I'm a strong believer that Allah is just. And therefore, if there is injustice in the world, or if somebody has had injustice done to them, then our belief is that Allah will reward them for that. So they don't actually need us because it's all under control. But we need this because we are the ones that are going to have to answer questions. And we have everything here. We have everything here. I certainly have everything here. I have a family, I have a home, I have a job, I have children. I'm so grateful to God that no intense tragedy has ever happened to me. So I'm not entirely sure how I would otherwise argue my position with God. And so for me, I need this because it's the only thing I really have to negotiate with at a time when negotiation will be required.
So you're actually looking at it as a test for us rather than for them, which is such a beautiful way of looking at it.
Yeah, I think it's always a difficult conversation when people ask me, you know, do you need me? And I feel like saying, I don't need you. And actually, they don't need you, but you need them. And I guess it's just that development in thinking that, would you be okay without this? Because I wouldn't be. Maybe, everyone's at a different place. Everyone's at a different place. But, you know, I just want people to know that this sort of lifestyle can be for anyone. And if possible, should be for everyone.
I think it's really beautiful because, like you said, opportunities are sent by God, and He will judge us on whether we took those opportunities or not. And blessings are sent by God, and what we do with those blessings. So, like you said, here in the West, we have so much, and we will be answerable to what we've done with with the time we had, the money we had, the resources that we had. So it's really beautiful to actually turn it to sort of, okay, I'm not helping them, but they're actually helping me to get my Jannah. They're giving me an opportunity to serve them, which is really, really beautiful, because that's how it is, right? It's like God will look after them. He'll send someone else. If I don't go, someone else will go. God's not going to abandon anyone, and He will, like you said, compensate them for what they're going through. So I suppose we need to look at it from the perspective of how amazing it is if I have been given that opportunity, and then take it with both hands and run with it, inshallah.
Yeah, I mean, the only really say two things to add to that is, sadly, sometimes if we don't go, nobody goes, and those people do suffer, and that is sad. Like, for example, during COVID, when we were not able to go, these people haven't had that care. But again, I think the reason why, on some level, I can accept that is because I feel that, Allah is all powerful. Allah can see everything, and Allah is aware. And as I said, my belief is that any injustice will be rewarded. So I can accept that I am unable to go. It's actually not in my power to go. And so I do think that intention, it's always double. It's always about helping those who wouldn't otherwise be helped, and also helping ourselves. But the other thing I was going to say, the second thing, is that it's a mindset. It's a mindset of saying that, yes, I'm busy, I've got a lot on today, but I just need to keep my eyes open as to whether I could be needed on someone else's agenda. Because if we wait to meet a refugee at school, or, you know, for the next time we're going to Iraq, or, you know, these sorts of things, then it's possible that this is a mindset that's only applied at certain times. And I think the important thing is to try and say, well, it doesn't quite work like that. The mindset should be there all the time. And on some level, you should almost be searching for the friend who's quiet and hasn't been in touch, or, you know, the old lady who looks a bit lost in the street, etc., etc. Sometimes you just need to have your eyes open, because it's really easy to miss these things otherwise.
Yeah, again, like you know, opportunities, right? Sent by Allah. And like Imam Ali alayhi salam says, they're like passing clouds. Once they've gone, then that's it, sort of thing. So yeah, if we haven't got our eyes open, we won't actually see them. Can I just ask? So you talked about the fact that you used to go to a nursing home with your mum, and you saw the doctors helping out in the desert and things like that. Was there anything else that sort of drove you to? Okay, obviously wanting to become a doctor came from that, but actually sort of giving up your time for others and being there for others. How did that sort of mindset come about?
Honestly, I'm not really sure. I mean, my mum was that way inclined. She gave up her whole life until very recently, just serving the elderly. So she initially used to work for Age Concern, the charity, and then
Okay.
she slowly opened their own nursing home. So they owned and managed that. And then when I was at medical school, she went to uni and did nursing at the same time. So we studied together.
Wow. Wow.
And yes, and that was just because she wanted to do her job to the best of her ability. And also, I think
sorry, before you go on, how old was she when she went back to uni?
So that is an excellent question. I'm going to throw it out there and say late 50s or mid 50s.
Oh my gosh. So she actually went back to uni when she was in her 50s to get a nursing degree so that she could actually then do her job to the best of her ability.
Yeah.
That is absolutely amazing. And how was uni with your mum in the same uni as you?
You know, for her, it taught me a lot, actually, because, you know, my mum, you know, from Africa, you know, she's fluent in English, but she doesn't know, you know, the big words. And, you know, she was studying with a bunch of 18-year-olds. So it was obviously a real challenge for her. And not only that, but IT, obviously, she would have no reason to be skilled with IT, and yet all her assignments needed to be done. So it was a real challenge for her, and it was a big learning opportunity for me to see that, again, if you really want to do something and if you believe in it, then you can do it. And that was just another sign for me that actually it's the mindset. And I think, you know, she did it because she was like, oh, you know, you will help me. I was like, I'll help you. But I barely helped her. You know, she did that whilst she was running and working in the nursing home. She was also doing her degree full time. So, you know, I've grown up with a role model who basically gave all of her time and continues in her own way. I mean, although she retired just before COVID, she now probably works even harder volunteering at pretty much every organization going. So I've grown up with a role model who always did kind of challenge the barriers and challenge kind of, you know, what's an appropriate amount of time to give to other people. So, you know, I was proud of her, actually. And I don't know whether that's where it stemmed from, the concept of helping people. I'm not sure. The only thing I can remember is seeing that on TV and thinking, surely that's got to be the goal here. I just remember that thought. Until then, I think my motivation for doing things was just spending some time with my mum. It was what we did together. We helped old people. There was no long-term vision other than when I saw that site on TV.
That's absolutely amazing. I think I need to get your mom on Real Talk. It's you know, it's so amazing to actually hear that, you know, once you've got past 50, when your kids have all sort of gone on their own journey, you know, started their own sort of lives, that, you know, you don't just sit back and think, okay, now it's my time to relax, but it's like, okay, now it's my time to do more, to help more, you know, to help others more, because now I actually have more time. I think most people usually tend to sort of think, okay, I've done my bit, I've brought up my kids, now I can just chill. And
Yeah,
it's
you know,
beautiful.
when it was the big lockdown, and obviously she had to convince her she was in the vulnerable category. She was challenging that too. She didn't understand that, you know, age in itself means that you're in the vulnerable category. So when I said, Mum, we need to like notify all the agencies that you won't be coming in, you know, like who is it I need to notify? I was like writing this really long list because I didn't know that she was, you know, with the Salvation Army and the hospital department and, you know, the homeless this and the food drive. And I was like, oh my God, Mum, like, you know, what is this? You know, so literally it's like a whole day's worth of writing emails to tell everyone that, you know, she wouldn't be coming in for a bit.
That's absolutely amazing. So we can see where you get your drive from. That's absolutely, inshallah, your children will follow in the footsteps of your mum and yourself. So again, when you go to Iraq, how has it been now? Because you've obviously not been for the last 2 years with COVID and everything. How's that been? How have you found that? Has it given you more time with your family? Have you sort of felt, okay, you know what, now I don't have to go, so I can actually, you know, I don't have that pressure of going, or have you missed it?
Yes, I think it's been very emotionally challenging for me. Because imagine, I've seen this picture when I was 8 years old, and this was my goal. So for that to be taken away from me, knowing that, how hard can it be to get on a flight and go for 6 hours? How hard, literally half a day is blocking me from fulfilling everything I've worked for, everything I live for, everything I dream for, everything I pray for. It's very difficult for me to accept that there is something in the way, but I truly believe that there is a sign in this for me. And I think, you know, as I mentioned earlier, the learning's there if you choose to see it. Mm-hmm. I probably had on some level started to take for granted that I would be going every few weeks or every few months. And I know that when I came back in December 2019, I was already planning for March 2020. And obviously, within a second, that was taken away. And it made me realize that, you know, don't plan as if you know what's going on. Don't plan as if you know that you're going anywhere, because overnight, if I want to take it away, I will, you know. And so it was a real learning point for me that every time I go, you know, treasure every second, treasure every hour, treasure every day, you know, every time when I'm tired, you know, and I feel like, you know, shall I go to the haram? I'm so tired, you know. Just don't waste this opportunity, because you just don't know when it's going to come again. So I think for me, there's been a lot of kind of a mind shift change on the sense of gratitude. So no, I certainly haven't got any less passion or am any more comfortable at home with my lifestyle. Not at all. In fact, I feel a lot of heartache about not having been. Again, not because of the destitute. Of course, I feel for them, I pray for them, but for myself. Because as I said to you, that it's this is all it's all plays, and that something from Shakespeare or something. This is all just a show, and we're here to gather a list of things. And I'm worried about my list, and that's actually what my internal challenge has been, to say, right, well, God is trying to get you to be more creative now. You still need to make a list, and COVID's not going to save you. So make your list, and you can't have Iraq. It's a bit like a game for me. So I have to find for my list. So yeah, it's been fun like that because you know, get the kids involved, and it's always harder because at home I have my home life, and there I have that life, but now I have to somehow make my home life a bit more productive. So yeah, so the challenge is on, but and it's fine, I'm satisfied, but boy, will I drop everything in a flash the minute it's safe to take a team of health professionals and go.
Inshallah, that's absolutely amazing. I think a lot of women feel that they can't do this because of the fact that their husbands wouldn't like it, or they would be doing a disservice to their children. Did you actually tell your husband that this was your dream, this was your passion before you got married? Was it something that you'd agreed on, or was it something that you brought up later on in the marriage?
To be honest, no, we didn't really talk about it. The only thing is, I remember, and I suppose now when you say I'm organized, I can see that, yeah, I probably am. Because I remember when I met my husband, I basically said to him, look, I've only really got 3 criteria. If you're happy with that, I'm good to go. Like, I remember having that sort of conversation. And one of them was that when it comes to my line of work, you know, it's better that you trust me on that one, that I won't, you know, I will never take advantage of the situation, but you know, I have ideas and passions and drive, and if I promise to be respectful of the fact that we would be a family unit, I need you to just leave this one to me. And he was fine, like, you know, he didn't have any concerns with that. So for me, that was a big one. And in fairness, I didn't know what that looked like. I just knew that I needed to have him to have that kind of, you know, understanding. And so I think he takes it in his stride when I have these plans. And I think what makes it happen is he knows how much it means to me. There are times when I said to him, "Oh, we're going. I'm not going. They're going, but I'm not going because I just came back 7 weeks ago, so I'm not going." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And he's looking at me, like seeing me stressing out inside, you know. And he's like, "Why do you convince yourself of stuff like this? For goodness sake, book a ticket and stop whinging," you know. So he, you know, he knows how much it means to me. And I think the other thing with my husband is that we are complete opposites in our kind of management styles. So I plan everything, and he's Mr. Spontaneous, and I think this works beautifully because I felt that, all things considered, going 7 weeks after you've come back is completely inappropriate and makes zero sense. But I'm talking to Mr. Spontaneous here, who's like, well, it's 30 seconds to book a ticket. I don't understand where the problem is, you know. So I think actually we balance each other out really well. And I think because he's such a kind of, you know, just lives for today, I admire that so much because I'm just not that kind of person. And I think he just feels like, but if you love it and it means so much to you, I don't understand why you're even thinking about it. Why don't you just do it? You know, and he never would think about, oh, what would we do with the kids? What would we do with that? And I say to him, but what are we going to do? We've got 3 children. And he's like, yeah, I understand that, but just book the ticket and then we'll sort it out. You know, so he just doesn't, you know, and I need that. If I had someone who was planning as much as I did, I wouldn't go anywhere. So, you know, so I think his personality works very well in this situation. And I think as well, now, you know, we've been married for, I don't know, 14 years or something like that. So we have an understanding, you know, and he knows that I'm happier, I'm more complete, I'm more satisfied if I'm doing this. So I think he probably gets the best
and
version.
therefore, yeah, and therefore a better wife and a better mother, right?
Yeah.
Because you're filled as well inside, because you're doing what you are passionate about and what you feel will help your, not only this world but akhirah as well.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. So you talk about the fact that you plan everything, but out there it must be really difficult to plan things. And it's like sometimes it's like for
Yeah.
someone who plans things, how does that work?
Okay, so my planning is more complicated than you think. I am super logical,
Mhm.
but I apply logic to situations which are logical. And I somehow have the ability of knowing where you apply logic and where you don't. So, for example, I will plan in the sense that I will plan my team, I'll plan their departments, I will plan on as much as is sensible to plan. But I'm fully aware that the minute we open the door, and this has happened time and time again, and it's really hard to prepare the team for this sort of scenario because we don't come across it here in the UK. But, you know, you open the door and you could have, say, 300 people waiting to see you. And, you know, that's not what the team were expecting, because in their world, we came 2 hours earlier than when we told people we'd be open, to so that they could plan an orderly queue and, you know, have a series of kind of events for people to be part of. And, you know, they plan it so beautifully, whereas I know that actually you can't guarantee that it's going to work like that. So I think because I know that in that situation you can't apply logic and organization and all these sorts of things in the same way that you would, I have the ability of knowing when to use it and when not to. And in that situation, I think if I did apply it, um, I just don't think it would work. And this is why I love the teachers, because maybe they're used to students doing mad things or something. I don't know, but they are ready for the unexpected. You know, and this is why they have such amazing skills that even many of the health professionals don't have. So when something doesn't go to plan, or people are where they shouldn't be, or, you know, there's an influx of people where, you know, they just work 2 hours to make sure there wasn't, you know, they just get straight on with it, you know, without being phased. And, you know, it's just a reminder that, you know, you can't plan for everything, and we need people with various personalities and skills, so that as a team we can do the best that we can to give these people what they deserve, because, you know, they're trusting us. They're desperate. They've been waiting years sometimes to see someone, to speak to someone, and they don't deserve any less than the people here in the UK deserve. So when we go there with a team equipped full of different ages, different genders, different professions, different personalities, different skill sets, I feel like we do a better job at giving these people the care that they deserve.
That's absolutely amazing. I suppose it sort of lots of lessons to come out of that. Like they plan and Allah plans, and Allah is the best of planners. So remembering that, you know, although I'm planning, Allah has a greater plan for the way it's supposed to work out. And also, really, we're not in control. God is in control. And I think once you sort of step back and realize that, then you leave it in His hands and just make sure that, you know, your niyyah is pure and clean. Yeah, that's amazing. So if anyone wanted to join you in these trips, how would it work?
So usually if we were going, you might see an advert on social media, but I mean, I would be happy to be contacted personally if required. Some people like to ask questions before they go. Other people already know that they want to go. So they would be welcome to contact myself, or there is an email address for A World Without Barriers, which you can find online, and they can email the email address, and all of their queries would be answered that way as well.
So there's lots of other charities as well, because I know I've been with Global Kindness, who go to Iraq as well. So there are lots of different ways you can help. And again, it's not limited to helping just people abroad. It's like you're saying, even here in your own country, in your own household, in your own extended family, in your own sort of neighborhood, there are people who are constantly needing help. So I suppose looking out for that, like you mentioned, is really, really important. Yeah, so thank you for that. I suppose my next question would be in how does it actually work? I mean, like, you're doing so much. why would you not just stop working and just go abroad and do this, and then be at home for the rest of the time? Why do you choose to continue working and not just holding down one job as a GP, but also teaching and things like that as well? It just seems like you're putting so much on yourself. Why?
I think maybe there's 2 or 3 different answers to that. I think one is there a echo, or is it just on my side?
No, it's fine.
It's fine. Okay. I think firstly, I have to work for financial reasons. So because it's a charity, if I go to Iraq, I need to self-fund my trip to Iraq. And if I take my children with me, which the vast majority of times I do, obviously there is an expense, and therefore it's important that I keep up my work for that reason. Secondly, I work because I believe in the concept of learning and education, and I take really seriously the hadith of seek knowledge from cradle to grave. And I think knowledge doesn't just come from opening a textbook and sitting an exam. It comes from experiences, and it comes from talking to other people. It comes from trialing things that don't work. And I do that all the time in my job. Just learning. And a lot of the reason why the vast majority of my work is actually in education. So I work with undergraduates whilst they're making their decisions on what type of a doctor they want to be. But I also specifically work with doctors who want to be GPs and helping them to get their qualification. And I do that because I am an advocate for the concept of growth. And the more other people grow and the more benefit that comes from that, ultimately, that's going to benefit me. These are people that are probably going to look after me when I'm like old and sick and the rest of it. So I might as well do my bit to get them, safe and et cetera, et cetera. And I think lastly, I do it because I need my daughter to see it. And I need her to never use her gender or the fact that she's running a family or anything like that as an excuse not to pursue her dreams. I need her to see that if she wants to do something, then she needs to really work out a plan and get it done, because life's too short for regrets, and we don't know how life is going to work out for us and how long we're going to be here. So I think if she really wants to do it, I don't want her to hide behind excuses like, oh, I've got a baby, and, oh, I've got a husband, and I've got a home, and I've got this and I've got that. I want her to live her life fully, because we only have one chance at this. So we need to do it right.
That's absolutely amazing. Thank you for that. So we've got 10 minutes left. What 3 advices would you give to people which have really helped you on your life journey, which may help others as well, that you'd like to share?
This is an interesting one. So at least people know this isn't staged, because otherwise I would be sitting here thinking, what shall I answer to this? So what 3 pieces of advice would I give? The first one is not to underestimate reflection. So, try to just take a little bit of time out to work out what it is you want and what you might do to get there. I think sometimes we get so caught up in the hustle bustle of things that we run the risk of being unproductive in terms of the bigger picture. So I would say maybe just, and this is not age specific, you can do this as a teenager, just take a minute out and work out what means something to you. Simple questions. What's important to me? And then work out what you want to do with that. So that would be the first one.
I suppose another question would be, what is your purpose in life? What are your skills? What does God want from you? What has He given you, which you can use to help others? So it's not just about me, myself, and I. So when you're reflecting, these are all the questions that should come into your mind. And then not just reflecting, you talked about actually sort of planning it as well, and how you're going to get to what you want. And again, that doesn't necessarily have to be short term, right? It can be long term. Like you said, yours took quite a few years before you got to actually going abroad to help.
Yeah, absolutely. So the types of questions you'll ask yourself will vary depending on your age and et cetera, But in some shape or form, asking yourself that question and making a plan, and even the plan will vary depending on your age. But just the concept of asking yourself the question, making the plan, I think is really crucial.
Does that ever change if you come up with a plan and then later on life circumstances, it's okay to change that plan and maybe come up with something else, right?
So part of my plan is being open to the fact that the plan could change. I think I've got some planning bimali. I think I've got a problem, but that's part of the plan, being aware that the plan might change. So the second thing would be, if you want to do something, then you are responsible for making it happen. You know, your happiness is in your own hands. And I think the quicker we realize this, the happier and more satisfied and more content we will be. I think sometimes we make the mistake of waiting for life or someone or a situation to make us feel fulfilled or happy. I think it's a big risk to do that, because in fairness, Allah is the only constant, but he's not physically here. So we are in this physical world. So if if you want that type of kind of, tangible happiness, you really do need to make it happen yourself. So I think, I would say just own that, own your decision making, and make the decisions that you feel are right for you. Don't wait for it to just come to you on a plate.
So again, I think as women, culturally, we've been sort of brainwashed to believe that we don't have the right to make decisions. It's our husbands who make our decisions, our fathers who make our decision, make decisions for us. So that again, that's quite a huge mind shift, right? To actually think, no, it's my responsibility. But then how does that come with my father or my husband being my guardian as well? How do you put the two together?
I think we do hide behind that a bit, and it's funny because, talking to my husband and asking him, what's really important, to you from a wife. I think it was a bit suspicious when I asked him questions like that. But I realized that nowhere on his list was anything that clashed with this concept, So I think sometimes we use this as an excuse, that, oh, I won't be allowed.
Sure.
I mean, have you actually tried to ask? So I'm aware of time, so I'll try and be quick. But for example, when we last went on our trip to Iraq, and we had a really lovely admin team, and they'd all left their small children behind with the dads who were basically just waiting to be asked to look after the kids. I mean, men are different. They're not necessarily going to offer that, listen, why don't I stay at home, look after all the children, you go on, do the, that's not their nature, and that's absolutely okay. But the point I'm trying to make is that we need to start owning it and saying, actually, would you mind, looking after the kids? Or actually, would you mind if I ask so-and-so to look after the kids? Because I'd like to do that. And it's just having the conversations and not shying away from them because we think that they might say no. Often, I've realized if there's a no, it's something to do with they can't get out of work or something. It's not actually that they don't want us to do it. And I think it's unpicking the situation, working out where the obstacle is, coming up with some solutions, presenting them. And I usually find 99% of the time, fathers and husbands, are only proud of our achievements because our achievements become achievements of the family, and I've always felt very strongly about that everything that I do is a family achievement because we all grow from it somehow. And I think my husband would say the same, that it's got to be a team effort, even if it's just by simple encouraging each other.
I think for all those women who've been listening to you thinking, oh my God, your husband must be an angel. It's actually nice to hear that, no, it's me, myself, stopping myself and not actually asking him the question. So it's not that he's an angel, but it's like you actually bothered to ask him and for him to give you an answer rather than you assuming that he's going to turn around and say no, which is what most women
And
do.
it's not something that came naturally to me. You know, I had to learn the hard way, and I had to feel the restriction to ask myself, but why am I feeling this? Have I ever bothered to ask? You know, so it's a growth mindset thing. You know, the minute you start to open your mind and think about this and unpick it, you know, you start to realize that actually. And the other thing you have to bear in mind is if the man goes to work and these sorts of things, they're away for so many hours. What's happening in that time? How much are we going to hold them accountable for in terms of our own restrictions? You know,
That's actually a good point.
need to question ourselves on that front.
That's
So
a really good point.
we've got time issues, so I'm going to rush the third one. The third one I would say is value the learning that comes from each and everyone around you, whether it's a 5-year-old or an 18-year-old or someone your age or a grandma, for example, because I think that age and gender and profession and none of these things have got any reflection in terms of how much you can grow by learning from someone. So I'm a huge fan of just talking to people and extracting from them anything that can help me on my journey. So I would just say that just enjoy the amazing people that we have around us, however old or young, and whatever shape or form they come in.
I think that's beautiful. I truly believe that there's no randomness in his universe, and every single person that we come across is, you know, we can learn from them and grow from them. But it's again taking that time out to actually see what I can take from them, rather than, you know, what they have to offer me, rather than just dismissing them because of their age or their gender. We tend, especially age, I feel like we don't, you know, if they're adults or if they're older, elderly, we've been culturally been told, no, they've got a lot to teach us. But when it comes to children, we don't seem to. And I feel like children see things very black and white, and it's really beautiful how they see things. There's a lot we can learn from them. That's amazing. So again, just very quickly, the 3 pieces of advice. One is to reflect and think of what it is that you're passionate about. What is it that drives you? What are the skills that you have, and how you can actually use that to do something worthwhile in your life so that you've got a purposeful life. The second one was to ensure that, to realize that we're in control of our own happiness, and to take sort of charge of that, and actually decide what I want and do it, rather than using excuses to hold me back, which tend to be excuses, and maybe makes me feel better about me not coming out of my comfort zone. I think it's coming out of our comfort zone that's really scary. So we use excuses to keep ourselves in our comfort zone. So that's really beautiful. And the third one was to actually learn from everyone around us, because everyone's got something that I can learn from, even if it's just a different perspective. If I got that clear? If I got that right?
Yep, definitely.
Perfect. Thank you so very much. It's been amazing. I think for me personally, I feel like there is so much more I should be doing. So I'm going to sit tonight and think about and reflect on what can I be doing? What more do I need to do? Because honestly, I think I'm the only one who's losing out if I'm not. And I think that's such a revelation, you know, to realize that it's not for others, but for my own self that I need to be
they
doing.
Will benefit. I don't think that, you know, they will benefit too.
No, of course, inshallah. But the thing is, if I realize that I'm doing,
and that
sorry,
will benefit. I said, and when they benefit, they will pray for you, and that will also help you.
Yeah, powerful du'as. Yeah, but I think it's just realizing that, you know, it's like, I think when we invite people over for dinner, we do it as if we're doing them a favor, but really they're doing us a favor by taking on that invitation, coming to our house, because the barakah and the blessing that comes from that, having guests in your house, is so beautiful. So yeah, just turning it around and realizing that, you know, you're getting so much from it. And like you're saying, it's not just the opportunity to help others, but then the du'as that you get from others because of the fact that you've helped them. Yeah, so thank you very, very much. You've been absolutely inspirational. Inshallah, God gives you the tawfiq to continue with all the work that you're doing, and then yeah, and inshallah that we take something from this as well to learn and grow from, inshallah.
Thanks so much for the opportunity.
No, thank you. Jazakallah khair. Thank you for all of you for listening and being here. Inshallah, we will have the next real talk on next month, the first Sunday of next month, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the 7th of November, inshallah. So please join us for another amazing, inspirational woman for us to learn from and take some life lessons so that we can actually then hopefully grow and yeah, become amazing women ourselves, inshallah. Thank you very, very much. And if there's anyone who feels that they can contribute in any way, if they'd like to be part of the show, please get in touch. If you know of anyone who you think would be amazing, you know, who's an amazing woman who would like to, you know, who may consider sharing their life story, please again get in touch with me, and inshallah we'll move forward from that. Thank you very much again, Safiya, for taking time out of your amazing busy life.
No problem.
Thank you. Jazakallah khair. If we can finish with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.